So this here is one of my first cases designed for doing like a laydown transmission for the losi. This is more so just to kind of get an idea of how to kind of lay out the gearing and space it out. Um, Now, what's really critical for me was trying to keep this inside component true and smooth. So it has to kind of print like this, and you can imagine this part here, it's going to be spaced up off the ground. So with the supports and stuff like that, the finish looks terrible, and that's one thing I'm not gonna be happy with. Is that's what I'm gonna fight with. Anyways, this is kind of just first the proof of concept to make the proof of concept of the idea and try to figure out hole placement. This one proved that the gears were too close together, it's too tight. I thought I gave clearance, but it's not enough. You can see right off the bat, I had designed it in there with putting in a ridge. That way, it helps to kind of keep these aligned together, lines it together. Also, but helps to keep grease inside and make sure it's less likely for it to kind of like sling out or leak. Um, so that's one of the things I'm trying to keep designed in. Now, another thing is because I want to make the problem would be is that if I run a 3 gear and a 4 gear. So if I were to focus on a 3 gear and it was like this, um, in this direction to have a 3 gear. So that if it's sitting like this, then the motor will spin in a clockwise rotation, which is good because it doesn't mess with timing. And I've been told by a couple reports that you get less voltage drop. So if this isn't a 3 gear and I want to run a 4 gear, when the 4 gears are in there and in this orientation, the motor is going to spin in the opposite direction, going counterclockwise, and that's going to affect and hurt timing. Um, or not hurt them, but it's going to make timing weird. It might make program the speed controller weird. And I guess it also will affect how efficient the motor will be. So, you know, at that particular point, I can't have my cake and eat it too. And in order to kind of make that work, if this is a 3 gear transmission of this orientation, to make it work for a 4 gear with the correct, and make the motor counterclockwise, I need to flip it over. So that would work in this orientation for a 4 gear, and this would work in this orientation if it's a 3 gear. But the next problem I would run into is I want this to work with the existing shock tower. I don't want to get making more and more custom parts if I don't have to. I like to make this kind of still work if you get a base kit. You don't have to get all the stuff. So now if we look at a stock transmission, you see this is a tang that goes to the shock tower. If I were to make this where I flip upside down, I would need to make it symmetrical in ways the tang would be in the middle, and that wouldn't work because then it's too low. So it's a matter of trying to think of how do I make it where I can brace this to the transmission. I can run as a so everything I want to have is I want to be run it as either a 3 gear or 4 gear, and if I am in any of those ratios, I can always run it clockwise. Or yeah, run it clockwise. I mean, you can run it counterclockwise too, but I mean, I think clockwise is gonna be more preferred. So I want to make that happen and make it work with the original shock tower. Almost kind of want to make this where I can make this an upgrade kit for already low-C kits I already have out there. Mind you, this is going to be all on a version 2 setup. So how do I get around this? Well, that's where I'm currently experimenting right now with the new design. So here's the transmission again, because of printing this part like this so that the inside's as smooth and consistent as possible. The outside here is going to suffer because of support, and it might lead to that these parts I actually can't produce, and I will have to outsource these with doing more complex printing options, either with SLS printing. That way it's always has support with it. So again, with the transmission, it's been designed so that again it has a groove that keys into each other. It's been spaced out a bit, and you can see now I'm trying to start incorporating having it where it's symmetrical and it can be flipped either way. So these two halves key into each other as such. So you key in, put them together, and then you can see how I have a kind of profile, square profile, which is kind of similar to the bottom of the stock transmission. And the idea is I can have it, it's in this way orientation, or in that orientation, it'll pop in there. Now I had to kind of take care with these humps because I got to clear for that front pivot block. So that's something I'm always contesting and dealing with. So going back with that, I haven't got to that point. But now, as you can see, I got a gap in the back, and you can see I got this. You can see the step. It's actually on both sides. There's little lips on both ends. But I got this back opening, and then this is gonna be this brace here. Now this brace will go in to those, holding out the holes. The screw goes through all that there, and that's going to now allow me to mount in the same position for the shock tower. So that mounts on the shock tower, and on top of this is holds that top square blocking together, so it's going to help keep the transmission closed up. And then I see these holes here because there'll be a bottom brace that kind of goes up from the bottom of the chassis up to this point and up to here, and then it'll probably lead up to the shock tower where it has those two holes for that, like that roll cage kind of looking bar. But it's going to kind of all tie it together to hopefully keep it pretty strong. So right now, again, just in the prototype and design of this all, and we'll see how it goes. And then what will happen is, in terms of layout, you imagine now, so there's this transmission. I'm going to compare it to that transmission. So we're going to just flip this around so it's the other direction. Take the bracket off for now. Taking the bracket off for now. So we got this transmission versus this transmission. So in comparison, if we were to, I'm going to flip, let's see. I'm going to flip it this way for a minute. And you can see that where the motor would sit versus, it's going to be hard to do. Try to go top view. So if we line up to the wheel holes, that's roughly, nope. No, don't follow me. I apologize, I'm going to put my phone down for a second. So if you kind of imagine, that is going to be how the difference is going to be in terms of the motor. You can see how much the motor gets shifted over. This motor is slightly out a little bit far just because of how that's positioned, and it'll go up a bit, but that will come in closer. That's roughly where it sits normally in the inner position. But you can see that the motor, it's gone even further forward. The motor will sit further up, and then right now that's transmission is gapped up, so that motor right now the same height, but this other motor on the stock sits up higher. So I'm lowering the center of gravity as well, and I'm extending that motor out further forward with this whole design. We'll also have the 3 and 4 gear options for you while you can retain running in clockwise motion. Sorry for the long-winded video here. Hopefully it kind of explains what I'm going with and dealing with right now and trying to make happen. Any feedback is totally welcome. I know that people are, I've told, oh, it's already been done with the losi, whatever. Well, like, I haven't seen anything that's kind of pertaining to what I'm actually fully trying to achieve. Because like, what I'm trying to achieve is I want to be able to run this in a mid-motor configuration, a lay down to have a lower center of gravity chassis and push that motor forward. Mid-motor, lay down, motor forward, and I want to be able to run it as a 3-gear or a 4-gear, giving you the choice because you want to move the weight, have the weight going forward or coming back, depending on the gears, but also always allowing the motor to be run in a clockwise rotation. I know there's already transmissions that's been done where it's it allows the transmission to run either as 3-gear or 4-gear, but it doesn't. They don't really solve the issue of running clockwise or not. So this is what I've been working with. This is the progress so far. Thanks for checking out the video. Bye.